Hi everybody, my name is Kristen Hanson and I'm one of the owners of Simple Surrogacy. We are a full service surrogacy agency located in Dallas, Texas. And full service means we basically can coordinate the entire journey for you. We have egg donors, you can choose a donor through us. If you don't find a donor through us, we can still coordinate the whole surrogacy part of the process. And if you have a friend who's a donor, we have a lot of people do that, we can also help coordinate the egg donor process for no additional charge for our surrogacy clients. So what that means is we'll send the donor to the clinic and take care of her if she's a friend, or send her escrow funds from your escrow, all of that kind of stuff. So we're basically point A to point B as a surrogacy agency. You can come to us and say, I have a clinic all lined up, I have a donor chosen, what do I do next? Or you can come to us and say, I don't know anything, where do I start? And we can guide you to clinics that we work with and help you with the whole selection process. So I've been doing this since 2002. Before that I was an egg donor multiple times, and so that's how I got into this business, as being a multiple time egg donor. So I've seen the business from that side of things, from the side of going to the clinics and having the shots and giving of the products to the intended parents. So I know what joy that brings to give to people. So what reason we got into this was I liked that process so much, but obviously they stop you being an egg donor when you turn 30, so you have to do something else to help people in this business. And so my partner, Stephanie, is a 4-time or 5-time surrogate. And so we got to know each other and decided that we could found a business together. And we did that in 2002. And so she knows the whole thing from the surrogacy side, and I know the whole thing from the egg donation side. And we also have people on our staff who are intended parents, who are support coordinators and support our intended parents through their journeys. And so we founded our business in Texas, not only because we live there, but because Texas has amazing laws for surrogacy, which most people are not aware of. I've spoken to some people at my table today that were like, what? Texas? I had no idea. And yes, Texas is a very friendly state for surrogacy. It's one of the few states in the country that have laws on the books that not just allow surrogacy, but actually have codified laws in the statutes that say, here's exactly what you do to get both parents' names on the birth certificate. So that means when you have the baby at birth, it belongs to you. Actually in Texas, even before birth. So the baby belongs to you from a validation point, which is usually, we get that done around 20 weeks of pregnancy. And so your names will go on the birth certificate as parent and parent if you have the baby in Texas. I talk a lot about Texas because it's easy to do surrogacy there. It's cheaper to do surrogacy there. It's a streamlined process there. We do also have surrogates in other areas of the country. We have surrogates probably in every state where surrogacy is legal, including Illinois. And we can match you in any state where you really desire to be matched. Now, the more open you are, the more likely you'll be matched really fast. Our agency currently has one of the fastest matching times in the country. We have no wait list. We currently match an average of 3 months or less. So that means once you enter our program, within 3 months, we generally have you matched. We've done it even faster. Sometimes we had a call last week with someone and we just thought of a surrogate that would be perfect, and they were matched within a week. Sometimes it takes longer. If you're really specific and you have specific needs for a surrogate, you could be waiting a little bit longer. Like if you're really looking to keep costs down and you want someone with those characteristics that I listed earlier, you might be waiting a little bit longer for a surrogate. But we don't actually have any wait times. We like to match for no forced matching. What that means is we're not going to match you in the order you came in. Like if you came in and the surrogate came in, we don't just say, okay, here you go, here she is, there's your surrogate, because we really want a relationship to be there. That's kind of the basis of our agency, is as egg donors and surrogates, we really wanted there to be a foundation of a relationship. We have really great relationships with our surrogates. That's why we have so many surrogates, because we treat them really well. And Stephanie, having been a previous surrogate, knows how to talk to them. But we really respect their wishes as well as yours. We feel like you guys are all partners in this, right? It's not just you that are our clients, but it's also them. They come to us for guidance, and so do you guys. So when we're matching, we really want you to find someone that you're going to have a relationship with. We don't want it to just be, hey, here's Heather. She's going to work. She'll carry your baby. Because this is someone you're going to want to be talking to every day, every week, whatever your schedule allows. But you're going to want to be comfortable asking them questions, and be comfortable going to ultrasounds, and be comfortable in the delivery room. So it's all an intimate process. So we really want you guys to like each other and get to know each other. So same thing for your agency. That's my one recommendation that people were asking me here is, as your agency, pick someone that you like to work with, that's going to be available to you, that you're going to be a priority for, that's not going to hand you down the chain of people that work for them. At our agency, Stephanie, my partner, does all the matching, and I handle all the legal and finance. So depending on which part of the journey you're in, you're going to be dealing with one of us, and we're always available 24/7. In addition to us, you will also have your own personal coordinator that you can text, call, phone, whatever, 24 hours a day. And they are either an intended parent who's been through the process or a surrogate who's been through the process, and they've seen it from their side and know how our agency works, so they're going to be available to you at all times. So when you come in, Stephanie will do all the program part, the matching part. She'll review your profile. She'll be on the calls with you when you choose a surrogate. And then once you're through that part, I'm going to be your guide on the other part of the legal contracts, working with the attorneys, funding escrow, and then I'll be the one sending you your escrow statements every month. And I'm the only person in our agency that signs the escrow checks, so I see every dollar in and every dollar out. So I feel like I'm personally accountable to your money as well, because I want to spend it like it's my money. So I'm the person that you call when you say, how much was this? Why was this much? And that I can explain it to you. So it's a lot of work, but it's, I think, an important part of the puzzle that we're that involved with it. So that's a little bit about us. Does anybody have any questions, or I can just keep talking forever because I'm very chatty. So I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has anything. Okay, well, let's just keep talking. So when you first come into, so let's talk about the process. There's a couple of different ways you can go about having a baby through surrogacy. Some people like to split it up in order to manage costs more productively. You can start with an egg donor. You can start with an egg donor in an agency, a clinic, and create embryos, right? A lot of people we have who come into the program, they've already created their embryos. That's great because you can split the cost up. You can create embryos, freeze them, hang on to them for as long as you need to while you're saving up money for your surrogacy journey. We do recommend that if that's something that you're willing to do in parts, is because that way when you're coming in to be matched, you already have embryos ready to go and the surrogates are ready to pick you. Like they know you're ready to go. If you don't have embryos ready to go and you're looking to do like a fresh cycle, then you do have a little bit more coordination to do. That can tend to cost people a little bit more money because there's flying in and flying out or travel to coordinate. With a fresh cycle, it's a little bit more, hey, we don't really know exactly what day these embryos are going to be ready. So there's a little bit more to go on there. Coming into the surrogacy program, once you're ready for that, you would fill out a long profile. This profile is going to tell us a lot about you guys, what you're looking for in a surrogate, what you like in a surrogate, what you wouldn't like in a surrogate, kind of basically your wish list, right? As part of that, you're also going to write a letter to your surrogate. Dear surrogate, I'm so happy to meet you. I can't wait to create a family, etc. That's a really important piece of the puzzle because, again, we're matching for like. We want to see how you guys fit together. We don't do any computerized matching. Everything is all read by hand, screened by hand, everything. On the opposite side of the scenario is your surrogate. She's going to come into the program and she's going to fill out the profile you fill out. She fills out maybe twice as long because we also need to know all about her medical history, everything that she's been through medically, how many children she's had, any miscarriages, everything. Once we have her profile, we get all of her medical records from her previous deliveries. And we send those to a reproductive endocrinologist that we work with, and he will tell us if she looks good on paper. If she looks good on paper, the next step is we run her background check. Make sure she also looks good on legal paper. She doesn't have any history of drug use, any history of being on welfare providers, those kinds of things. Any child abuse, any spousal abuse. We check everything to make sure that she is clean on paper. Once she passes those two checks, then the next step is the psych eval. So we send her to our psychologist and they thoroughly screen them, make sure they would pass the psych eval. Some clinics will require an additional psych eval at their clinic, but most of them accept our psych evals sent to them. So that's all included in our program costs. We don't charge additional for any psych evals or anything, or background checks for that matter. And then the last step of the process is we have one of our intake coordinators interview them, a previous surrogate who's been through the whole process, and she has an extensive phone call with them and make sure they understand this is an expensive process. Do you understand what you're coming into if you're a first-time surrogate? Do you understand what the relationship will be like? Do you have any questions? And make sure they really understand the impact of this. And so after that extensive interview, only then is her profile available to be matched. So once she's jumped through all those hoops, it takes about 2 to 3 months, depending on how long it takes to get medical records. And then her profile is ready to be matched with yours. So you guys will also undergo a background check coming through our program, and that's just to make sure that legally the process is a smooth process, because there are some certain states where if you have a DWI or DUI on your record, there are extra steps that you have to jump through. It's not impossible, but those are the things we like to know about up front. Yes?
A lot of people talk about like where the surrogates live, like vis-a-vis like the travel costs that you might have to go and visit them. But is there where they live and their like sort of accessibility to like good medical care providers is sort of a part of your screening process, and to what extent should that factor into the calculus for us, like if they're in the middle of West Texas as opposed to like being in the suburbs accessible to like a university medical system?
Right. So it is part of the agreement that all surrogates have to have access available to a level 3 NICU. Okay. That's part of the stipulation in most contracts, is that parents want that availability. They want to have a level 3 NICU available just in case you should need it. So the vast majority of our surrogates either live in a area where they could do that, or they're willing to induce a pregnancy and drive closer to one, or have at least a regional hospital with a level 2 NICU, and some people are willing to compromise. There's not a lot of surrogates kind of in the middle of nowhere. Even in Texas, there's not really kind of a big middle of nowhere. Even out in Lubbock, they still have university teaching hospitals and stuff like that. So the vast majority of them live near a major city. And most of our surrogates that are in Texas are clustered around the major cities: Austin, Houston, San Antonio, Dallas, where it's a major airport and major medical cities. So we haven't had a surrogate yet that's been in the middle of nowhere, but that would factor into it because they do need to be accessible to the level 3 NICU. And as far as travel costs, yeah, that's definite consideration. The surrogate will have to go to the clinic at least twice. First for screening, and once again for the transfer itself. The transfer is usually a 3 to 4 day trip. Screening can be in and out in one day. But your visits will be longer. So you do need to consider if they're going to be near your house, or, I think people talked in there earlier, if you're going to have babies that are born prematurely, you're probably going to want to be near them. So that is a factor to think about, distance in those terms. But as we were talking earlier, expenses also play into it, right? Not just your expenses if you were going to be there for NICU, but expenses in terms of how many trips back and forth you have to make, how high is the surrogate compensation. For example, if you wanted to stay in Illinois, you'll pay more in surrogate compensation, but is that worth it to you versus having a cheaper surrogate in Texas, but you might have to travel? So there's no one answer. That's why I think when you choose your agency, you have to say, all right, I like Heather. She looks fantastic on paper. I had a great conversation with her. Can you break it down for me on what my journey with Heather looks like for scenario A, singleton, scenario B, twins? And we can definitely do that for you. We do that a lot. 2 minutes. So we definitely do that a lot, yeah.
So you mentioned that in Texas it's less expensive. And you mentioned, is it the compensation that makes it less expensive?
Compensation, just medical costs there a little bit less. Cost of living in general is a little bit less. Our agency fee is less than I think any other agency fee here. We include all the things with it. You're taking 10% off the top basically for cost of living and taxes and stuff. So just things cost less there. So the mileage we pay in California is a lot more than the mileage we pay in Texas. In places like California and Maryland, where we do have surrogates, their monthly fee is $250 minimum, sometimes $300 for their monthly expenses allowance, because you have to cover more driving to and from the clinic, higher medical costs, higher food costs, everything like that. Whereas in Texas, the base a month that they get is $200 a month, $250 with twins. So kind of just across the board, it's just cheaper, especially if you're looking at California. I mean, California's right now I've seen $60,000, $70,000 starting surrogate compensation being asked there. So,
do you have any quick stats on the success of your donors and the fertilization rate, or getting to a good embryo, and then also on the surrogate and going to birth?
No, we don't have any vast stats on the donors, because the donors go through the program and we have statistics on each individual donor, but you'd have to look at donor by donor basis. But generally, if you're using a young egg donor, all the donors in our program have been screened for suitability, and then before you go under contract with them, you'll go through a screening process with them at your clinic, and they'll screen out the ones that are not good. They do a test to make sure they have enough follicles to produce a good result. But we haven't seen, with young donors, we see pregnancies usually on the first transfer. I would say 90% of the time. It's really unusual to not with a young donor. So, and on surrogates, we just keep with you until you have a baby. Like they were talking in there about, what if she goes to the first transfer and she does fine, and then you need to get a new donor, a new surrogate? Well, fine, no problem. We get you a new surrogate. We don't charge additional fees for those things. So thank you guys for coming. I'm sorry I'm out of time, but come visit me if you have some more questions. Thank you.